Hello, lovelies. Alright, well, I wasn't expecting to do two recordings for today, but here we are. I just got the Discworld Adventures in Ankh Morpork Quickstart through from Modifius, which they've sent out to everyone for free who's on their mailing list. So check your own emails if you're on that mailing list. If you're not, maybe go and sign up if you want a copy. But we're going to go through it. Now, I am, or was, I suppose, I don't know which, a long-time fan of Discworld, back from before it was cool, but I drifted away a bit in later years. I think going postal was possibly the last one that I read. I have been horribly disappointed by a great many of the conversions of Mr. Pratchett's work to other media, such as TV and film, which I always felt kind of missed the magic, because so much of what is particularly funny and engaging and interesting about Mr. Pratchett's work is the wordplay and the asides, and that was never really done in the TV series or the animations or the TV movies that have been done. Of particular noteworthy absence was always the footnotes, and I wonder if people avoided embodying the footnotes in those works because it would be a little bit too much like Douglas Adams and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But to me, that's always been a bit of a mistake. You know, people are used to cutaways and things, and it's always been something that's been missing when Discworld has been translated into other media. I had the good fortune to meet Mr. Pratchett twice. On one occasion, I backed up into him accidentally at a signing or book show or something in Winchester when I was at college. And he apologised to me, even though I'd backed into him. So, very lovely guy, really. I've not a bad word to say about him. I've been reading his stuff since The Unadulterated Cat, which is underrated and little seen. So, check that out if you can, and if you're a cat owner, particularly. Now, this isn't the first time that Mr. Pratchett's work has been given the role-playing game treatment. Last time, weirdly, was GURPS. It's not that weirdly, because GURPS used to do supplements for everything, but weirdly because it was a system that was manifestly, even singularly, unsuited to showing off Discworld. Alright, let's start flipping through this. I apologise for the clicking noises. I have a mechanical keyboard, so yeah, it makes noise. So, yeah, I do own a copy of the GURPS version of Discworld, and yeah, it didn't work for us. So what we ended up doing when we played it was we used my description system, TDS, the description system, where you describe a character using a paragraph saying, you know, who they are, what they can do, and then you underline the suitably descriptive adjectives, and then whatever adjectives you can kind of pull together into place determines how good you are at any particular task that you try to do. And they've gone for a narrative game here as well, so I think they've come up against the same problem and the same issues, in that Discworld just doesn't suit a mechanically heavy sort of game, and so you need to reach out to more narrative style mechanics. Otherwise you just end up kind of stuck in the weeds, really. In our game, they were playing high energy magic wizards going out into the world to test portable hex, which was of course a laptop, and that led to many, many puns and adventures, including the invention of bee mail, where you could send a bee flying off from your laptop back to Hex, sending messages or instructions, things like that. But so we managed to have a pretty good laugh out of it using a more narrative system. So I think, despite this being Modifius and them being famous-ish for their 2d20 system, I think they've wisely gone with a different system for this, which is a behaviour I encourage, because while 2d20 is very flexible, it's not suited for everything. And so I do feel that I would like to see more of this, custom systems for custom games, where it's more suitable. So characters are defined somewhat nebulously via traits, which may be familiar to you from Warp, that was used for Over the Edge, or the LARP version of Storyteller, or Fate. Those would be things that maybe you would pick up on. Now, all of these traits have, again, nebulous applicability to various tasks that you might set about trying to do, and depending on their applicability, which is something the Games Master will have to determine, you'll be rolling anywhere from a D4 to a D12 against a roll of a D8 by the Games Master to determine whether you succeed or fail. So there you go. That's your target to aim for difficulty. You also have luck points as a resource, which you can spend to reduce any potential negative consequences of what you're doing, or spent after to try again, but it worsens the potential consequences. 1,000,000 to 1 shots always succeed, but that's at the GM's discretion. So yeah, this is somewhere between Warp, Fate, and my own description system, which is a little bit annoying because I was just reworking the description system and it's rather similar to what they have here in many ways, so I guess I'll have to rewrite it again. Thanks, Modifius. Yeah, annoying. This kind of system, it is quite Games Master decision heavy, so you will end up as the Games Master making all manner of decisions on the fly constantly about how applicable traits are, and that is the disadvantage of more narrative systems. They can also render big character advantages less advantageous, less meaningful in the game. Less of a problem in Discworld, but if you were to take these rules and apply them elsewhere, perhaps, then it might not work quite so well. It's intensely narrative to the point where there are no special rules for combat, and rules for nearly dying, or near-death experiences as they call it here. They're absent because they're unlikely to come up, but they've got to save something for the main book, and honestly you could, even without these few other things that they've got, like character creation and so on, you probably could just use what's in the Quickstart and in the various assorted other books about Discworld or the wikis or whatever. You've probably got enough here to play already. You could do a bodge job of putting characters together and dealing with character death, but you would be pretty much set with what's here. So I hope what is in the final book is more extensive, lots of examples, lots of assistance and ideas, GM guidance and help. And I hope it also provides a sort of one-stop shop for information about Discworld in a more game-accessible form for you to use. After all, the Ankh Morpork map and a lot of the other material that was put out back in the past is out of date from the later books. So there's an opportunity here to produce a much more in-depth guide to Ankh Morpork, which I hope they do, really. This quick start provides a brief overview of the Discworld, a smallish guide to Ankh Morpork, and then it tinkers about and kind of sets your expectations for what kind of game this is. Speaking of characters, though, they seem to be determined by their name, gender or pronouns, group, species, and/or background, a couple of niche traits, their core trait, and a couple of quirk traits. You'll also pick up consequences as you fail various rolls, and these are also traits which can stand against you or for you. The game itself is deliberately designed for shorter, more anthology-style play of one-shots or short campaigns, which again seems to be the zeitgeist at the moment, and something I've explicitly put into my game Ronin, which will probably kickstart at some point early next year. That's where I'm at with that. You get a short adventure, which normally I see as a waste of space, but in a quick start you kind of want a short adventure, I suppose. It looks hopeful, particularly the use of the many art resources from the lifetime of Discworld material. There's a lot to draw on. A lot of games don't seem to utilize what they have available to a proper extent, unfortunately, but this does. I mean, I was just reviewing Cyberpunk. I think the video went up this morning for the Edge Runners toolkit, and I didn't feel that particularly leveraged the material from the computer game or the series. But here you've got plenty of art that is either evocative of or straight from various books, sketchbooks, support material and otherwise for Discworld, and so that's smart, and I hope that carries through to the main book. Yeah, so what do I think overall? I mean, it's the approach that works, but how much game is there here, and how much game is there going to be in the final product? Or is it just going to be a nice source book on Ankh Morpork and Discworld that's just slightly more suited to gamers than the other material that's out there? Where's the added value here? I mean, I think it's the right choice, don't get me wrong, to do this style of narrative game. It's just there's not going to be a lot of mechanical meat, which is why I hope it's going to be a lot of guidelines and ideas and processes to help people create better adventures in this sort of vein. And I also hope it's going to be a really good source book on Ankh Morpork, or will be accompanied by a very good source book on Ankh Morpork. It remains to be seen. More worrying signs. So there is a section on safety tools, which is kind of pointless, but it does emphasize on the necessity to talk to each other. So there's 3 paragraphs on this page on safety tools, and the first 2 paragraphs are redundant, really, to my mind. These pointless things like lines and veils and X cards and so on, you don't need any of that, but it does talk about just talking to each other, and if you must have a section on safety tools, I think that's the only thing you need. It's sad that it's here, but it's here, and I think we have to resign ourselves to the fact that most games are going to put in this kind of nonsensical genuflection to certain people. Same as we used to have all those disclaimers saying, games aren't real, they're not satanic, don't be silly. We kind of rolled our eyes and skipped past that because we knew that wasn't really for us. So, I mean, this is meant for us, but we can just ignore it and roll our eyes. Similarly, there's another boring genuflection to pronouns. Like, who cares if you want to have characters with different pronouns? Do your thing. Again, it's another, as I say, a pointless genuflection to the mood. Nothing against people choosing different pronouns. It's just it gets so tiresome to see in every single book all the time. Who cares? Who cares, right? And that's what we should be aiming for in life. Who cares? about anything that people have previously gotten their knickers in a twist about. There are footnotes, which is nice to see. I hope the game itself has footnotes, and I hope that there is some guidance on how to use cutaways and footnotes in play to make things more amusing and entertaining. Right, so it's a quick start. Those are always hard to score because they are meant to give you some insight into the game, but they deliberately withhold a great deal, and they're usually largely made up of things that I just simply don't care about, like pre-existing adventures. But it does give you an idea of what to expect. In terms of style, I can't really fault it on its style and presentation, though whether the final book form will be the same remains to be seen. It's using the art resources that Discworld has pre-existing to a large extent and only adding where necessary. So that's all good as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to give it a low 5 for style. And here and there's things that could be elevated a bit, but then I don't bother to do that in my own work, so who am I to criticise others? So 5. In terms of substance, I mean, it's a quick start. It has what you would expect from a quick start. Doesn't really go much further than that. It sets up a few alarm bells on what the final book is going to be and how substantial that's going to be. So a tentative 3 for substance. For this, at least, it's what you expect and no more. And it hints certain things about the final book, which may or may not be good or okay. So that's 5 for style, 3 for substance, 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5. This is available for free, the quick start, and probably should be easy enough to find, even if you're not on the mailing list. So have a leaf through and see what you think yourself. Discworld is one of those things like Harry Potter, I think, which has been considered to be something of a holy grail in terms of licensing for RPGs. It may be a bit too late to really cash in on this, but I guess we'll see whether it does turn out to be the kind of blockbuster. But this is something that should be accessible to non-gamers, and there are a lot of dabblers involved in Discworld fandom who will dabble in things like community theatre and other stuff, so they might be willing to dabble in a role-playing game. I guess we'll see. Zang.
Greetings, Jerkian warrior elite. Know this, that your existence is down to the orders of our portly potentate, and that without him you would not exist. Your very conception in the clone tanks of Clonius, the cloning planet, is ordained by his obese omnipotence, and from that very moment you owe him your life, your servitude, and your loyalty. To be a soldier in the glorious army of the Jerkian Empire is perhaps the best fate that can befall lowly matter in this universe. The Jerkian Empire is all-conquering, all-powerful, has the best uniforms, the most advanced weaponry, and the greatest leader the galaxy has ever known. Nothing can stand in our way, and you, even as lowly as you are, can die knowing that you are serving a far greater cause and a far superior people to any other in the universe.
Invaders is a comedy game of mishap and alien adventure, where you play the part of diminutive and comedically and epically incompetent alien invaders. You can get it at post-mort.com and drive through RPG.
Murder me and fuck my skull. Put my body in a vat of acid. Put my brain into a jar. Show it to your friends. Bring my teeth to the dentist, but the dentist doesn't want them. So light them on fire and leave them on a scar.